Last year we had kind of a rebuilding year, so we should have 9 starters back on offense, 9 on defense, but 6 guys go out early for the draft. So that in and of itself creates a few more question marks.
Troup, Smooch, and the Dawgs Show. Another new episode is coming up.
You're listening to the one and only Dawgs Show. Your hosts, Troup Brenson and Smooch Moncrief.
Don't get no better than this.
Just 2 dudes talking Georgia football.
Welcome, dog fans, to the one and only Dawgs Show. With Troup and Smooch, and the season has arrived. Georgia, 45-7 over the Marshall Thundering Herd. Smooch Moncrief, Troup Brenson right here, and we live in the dream right now. Georgia had a great game in Athens last weekend, and man, we can't wait to talk about it. So much to talk about, Smooch. I'm trying to pack it into an hour right in there.
Not going to happen. Yeah.
The number one thing is the Dogs. Them Dogs, 1-0 to start the season.
Yeah, it's great to be a dog today. It really is, but it's even better to not be a Crimson Tide fan today.
Oh, whoa. Easy.
Not only are we the Dogs, but we're not Alabama.
We got some Crimson Tide listeners. We don't want to send them running down the street just yet, right?
I think they would agree. I have seen them at a low that I don't think I have ever seen before in just the last couple of days.
So like if you're a Tide fan and at some point early in the season you determine, maybe a casual Tide fan,
right?
And you determine, okay, I'm not going to do this year. Lots of casual fans have a secondary team.
After the Tide is the Georgia Bulldog.
I don't think there's any casual Alabama fans who are going to be Auburn fans. I really don't.
No, that would be wrong.
We got some closet dog fans from you Alabama lovers here.
Maybe
we do.
Yeah,
come on. We got
our bandwagon has plenty of seats. Yeah.
Come on with it. And Kirby Smart is at the helm of the Georgia Bulldogs, and so that should feel comfortable for you Alabama fans, since you got DeBoer, who is about the polar opposite. And I feel in a way sorry for you Alabama fans who are used to things happening a certain way. Then you dig down and find out what's actually going on, and you find out that DeBoer is really a polar opposite of what Saban brought to the table. And you're hoping that he can have his own way to create this.
Right, his own style.
It's not happening.
Yeah,
it's not happening. 5-5 in their past 10 games is
that
Alabama.
Right? Oh my, that doesn't even sound right. I didn't think I'd ever say that about an Alabama team.
But the Dawgs Show, Kirby Smart and his staff, we're ready for this weekend. Let's preface this show. Smooch, we're going to do a recap of the ball game Saturday, 45-7 against the Marshall, and just talk about some different things in terms of the game, as well as how fans kind of perceive things with that game, with the other games as well, because it was a packed opening weekend of football.
Yeah,
and so we talk a lot about that, and particularly when we hit our second segment, which we're going to call Read and React. And Read and React, we're going to talk about what happened across the country in some of these key games, and especially with what these quarterbacks did. Because I can't remember, Smooch, another year where there was so much question and interest in what some of these young quarterbacks were going to be able to provide and how they did Saturday. Some of them did great, and we anticipated that. Some of them some of the quarterbacks did not do as well, and we reveled in that as well, because the media can hype you up, and you still got to do it on the field.
You gotta do it. Nobody cares who your granddaddy is.
Nobody at all. So we'll talk about that and Read and React, and we have a DFA tonight too. And it's two teams you folks are going to have a ball and reveling in what we talk about with, of course, DeBoer and Saban was there, of course, to Alabama, and what happened against FSU, as well as what happened with Ohio State and Texas.
Right.
Arch Manning. Of course, Arch was the grandfather. Arch was the one who was the original, right?
Yeah, he's the original. First
Archie.
overall to New Orleans, yeah.
And so, so lots of hyperbole attached to some of those quarterbacks and some of the teams, and we're going to kind of disperse that and talk about it a bit. But yeah, let's get it started, Smooch. And as we talk about Georgia's win against Marshall, what did you take away from that 45-7 win? Were you expecting something you didn't see?
So here's what it is. I said more than anything, I said that on the show this week. I want a satisfying win where Georgia comes out, they start well. Brandon Adams had been hitting on this as well, and we know he listens to our show for his own prep. We appreciate that. You're more than welcome to, Brandon. But we want to see Georgia come out early with punches in the mouth, in the gut, take the game away, put it away, and then work on what they need to work on. And, we saw exactly that. I think that this era of Madden and NCAA football on the PlayStation and the Xbox, people want to see these 80-0 beatdowns, and that's not what Georgia came into that game to do, but they did. They came out, they started fast, they took control, they were dominant from the beginning, and they got a lot of things to talk about that they did well, some things that they did just fine, and then some things that they need to work on. And that's all you can hope for when you play a weaker school like this in week one. So overall, they did exactly. I was afraid this was going to be one of those 10-3 halftime type of things, where they're not. It's just nobody's doing anything, and and then they pull away late because they've just got so many more players. But that wasn't it. They came out, they took care of business. Everybody looked like a team. They were having a fun. They got it done. They got a lot to work on. I'm not saying that, not trying to sugarcoat it. But I was extremely satisfied, I would say, with the way the game went Saturday.
Yeah, and I kept writing this note down, Smooch, is that Georgia puts on film what they want to put on film. And that's twofold there. And that's not just that's for the opponents coming up, like it's a Tennessee, Alabama.
Tennessee, yeah.
And that's in a couple weeks on September 13th. And so they're going to put on film what they want. They're also going to put on film for themselves what they want to see, because make no mistake, they are in the film room right now, looking at what they wanted to see, what they wanted to improve on, what they want to stress, and they put those plays out there for themselves to see where they stand and what they can improve on. I feel like in this game, Georgia already felt really good about their vertical passing game, and I think that's one of Gunner's strengths, actually. And he can go downfield, he can hit some of these receivers on the outside, and make big plays. But what do you accomplish by throwing 50 and 60-yard passes other than making the fan base feel really good about it? And we've heard the fan base we've heard that. And I don't think it matters in terms of a team trying to get to where they want to get and to improve weekly. But I was really encouraged because they stressed over and over offensively. We'll talk about defense too, but offensively, it was stressed that running game is very important for Georgia.
Can you imagine Troup Brinson being Josh Heupel or Caleb DeBoer today, knowing that you have to prepare for a sprint option and the read option against the Georgia Bulldogs? The Georgia Bulldogs, you now have a quarterback that can put 100 yards on the ground up on you at Georgia. That is exactly what Kirby wanted to show, because he wants those guys prepping for that and having to think about that, having to spend practice time on that. It's just 2 weeks away, right? The Tennessee game is just 2 weeks away. And I think that you talk about all the time. This is one of the things you've always said, the chess and checkers. Somebody's playing chess, somebody's playing checkers. Kirby called that game like he was wanting to beat Tennessee. That's how he called the game against Marshall.
Well, that's the I guess the displeasure of a lot of fans is in the Kirby Smart regime. If you have displeasure, it's that some of these teams that we want to blow out, we don't blow out because they're already counted out as a W, and they're going to work on the things that they need to work on to be better by week 6, week 7, week 8, and so it doesn't really matter to please the fans. You want to win those games. You want to be impressive, but that's not the end game for this coaching staff. Looking at these stats, Georgia did have almost 500 yards total yards, and 249 passing, 239 rushing.
Gotta love that
27 to 7 first downs. They dominated right there, no turnover, so that was good. Georgia had a good time of possession too, almost 34 and a half minutes in time of possession. And then we look at the individual statistics. Gunner Stockton was 14 out of 24 for 190. Almost 8 yards per attempt, 2 touchdowns passing, 2 touchdowns rushing. He also rushed for 73 yards on 10 attempts. I don't anticipate seeing him running the ball that often. I really do think that this was like, okay, if you have looked at this Georgia offense and think you're going to crash down on these running backs and catch them from behind over and over, that's been an issue.
Yeah.
You can't. You can't. And we may not run the ball from the quarterback but 5 times a game on those plays. But we don't want to. But you can't just crash down because we would prefer to give it to Nate Frazier rather than Gunner Stockton keep it. But he will keep it if you make him. And so you got to be aware and cognizant. That's going to slow some of these defensive ends and outside linebackers down from catching a play on the backside. And I think that's huge from the running standpoint.
100%. You know, I think back to when last year we were still running a read option every once in a while last year, but we gave it to the back 99.9% of the time. We gave it to the back, and they're just exploding on him, crashing in on him. And now, as we saw Saturday, those can be touchdowns. We saw it twice, right? Who else thought when they ran that option, they ran the read option on, 4th down to Chauncey, that Chauncey had the ball. You saw him running to the line, get swallowed up. People were even celebrating. And meanwhile, Gunner scoring a touchdown. That type of thing, it's a whole new thing to prepare for. And I think you hit the nail on the head. This is not going to be the ratio of quarterback running you're going to see. This is Kirby Smart saying, look, we have this element now. You're going to have to prepare for it. And then you'll see it settle into something a little more Georgia looking. But he was showing off his new toy. He's got a guy that can run the ball at the quarterback position. We haven't had that in a while.
Yes, and you saw that this offense is tailored for Gunner Stockton.
You mentioned that
those
during
plays,
the game.
He was running an option. Mm-hmm. And when I first saw the option, I was like, no, what are we doing? It looks so odd the way we were. I was like, you don't see it anymore. And it feels like a very risky move. But just the ability of, they see these guys every day in practice, so they're very comfortable with that. But Stockton, just the way he moved, the way he made the read and decision, they're very comfortable with it. And he was making the decisions to run the ball from Gunner Stockton was right on every time. And that gave me a little enjoyment and a little bit more comfort. We know that Gunner Stockton has that about him. Mm-hmm. He's not the same twitchy guy that you saw with Stetson Bennett.
Right.
But he is like a running back at quarterback. And he's
can put his foot in the
too.
ground. He can put his foot in the ground and make people miss. We saw it.
Did it several times.
Yeah.
And because you got to honor all the options out there. So he did a good job with that. And some of that is what he's going to need to do in big games. And I don't know if he's going to do it as much, but he can. And the fact that he can is going to make those teams honor that and practice for it, and it's going to make our running backs better. And so if you don't understand that, folks, it's going to make our running backs better, and our running game is going to be much better because of that that other option in terms of him keeping the ball.
239 yards rushing, Drew. 239 yards rushing. That's nothing. This needs that 5.4 yards per carry. That'll work.
Yeah, I will say also defensively, it was exactly what I expected to see. Me and Smooch both went to the spring game, and it felt like exactly what we saw at the spring game. It felt like a team that with so many athletes and so much ability, and there's a lot of young guys out there, but really, really talented. Not just youth, but really talented youth who are who have that passion and fire and energy to play on the level that the standard that Georgia is requiring. We saw that across the board.
We did.
It was not any defender that didn't seem to look that way. And you can say it's Marshall. You know, it's still about a standard and about a team who's hungry for that. And we saw that Saturday.
If you want to talk, the defense, they call it distribution. That means that when the play call is in on defense, that everybody is in the spot they're supposed to be in reaction to the offense. Now, an offense can execute perfectly, and there's nothing you can do about it. But when you have good distribution, it means everyone's in position. And we saw that time and time again, which from a team this young is very rare. And then you saw guys like Gabe Harris, right? I mean, the idea of running Georgia at times in the recent years has been weak on the edge against opponent runs. Not with Gabe Harris there. You're not running around Gabe Harris. That man made 2 tackles. They were both in the backfield. Anytime the ball got near him, he put the guy on the ground. I thought he looked fantastic, ready to step up into that next role of dominant defensive Georgia player. And then the linebacker room we could do a whole show on what they're doing from that linebacker room. But C.J. Allen, that's the leader. That's not to be disputed. Chris Cole, Raylen Wilson, they both made wow plays in the game, Troup.
Yep, and I really do like what you said about Gabe. And he may be an underappreciated player because, I mean, he hasn't made a name for himself. We know who he is, obviously. Damon Wilson left, but Gabe Wilson was Gabe Harris was the player who Georgia's put a lot of emphasis on to be that run stopper, that defensive end that holds the line there. He did a great job. He was taking on offensive tackles and doing a terrific job of holding his own and maintaining the edge and getting some penetration as well. So we love that. I think we saw all we needed to see defensively. And the casual fan, and there's nothing against you guys because most of us are casual fans. And you know, a lot of people will call us casual fans, but they going to look at this game and say, but on a 45-7 game, they're going to say, but we didn't do this or we didn't do that. Just don't. We did exactly what Kirby Smart and his staff wanted to do. I promise you. They did what they wanted to see. They put on film what they wanted to see. They put on film for Tennessee or Alabama what they wanted them to see. Don't get into that.
Right.
It's going to be a progression because it's always that way. It's always Kirby Smart's teams are always trying to get better each week. They're not trying to score 80 points a game and flash and show everybody that we can do this because that's a team that's insecure. That's a coaching staff that's insecure.
That don't win
who
championships.
They are.
That's right.
It doesn't. We saw Tennessee with Nico, who's no longer even there. They only scored 10 points for UCLA this past weekend.
That's right.
They blew teams out for the first 3 weeks.
Yeah.
And then when they started playing teams with a pulse, boom, went way down, like 23 points a game. Nothing in terms of SEC, in terms of really being an explosive team. We saw it last year with Auburn. They were so excited about Vanilla Vic. It was 73 points in their first game. And all we heard about was, here we go.
Here it is. We're here. We're back.
No, it didn't work out that way. And so a coaching staff like what Kirby Smart has, they have a plan. And not to say they're perfect, but they definitely are not trying to impress you right now.
That's a really good point, Troup. And I think that within Kirby's plan, I was just having this conversation with an old buddy of mine a little while ago. Within Kirby's plan is to reveal to his own team things they need to work on. If you go and score 80 points against a team, do you feel like your players feel like they have a long way to go, that they have a lot to work on? Kirby loves to show his team where they have to work on. Offensive linemen knowing their assignments, that's something that needs to be worked on. And Kirby provided the film to his own team to show them, look, we have got to get better here. There's a few things on the offensive line that have got to be fixed. We lost 40% of our offensive line 2 possessions into the game. And then we dealt with people not knowing where they were supposed to be, right? A couple of times missing assignments. Well, the way Kirby called the game and ran the game provided that. Look, we can do better here. We can do better here. And so when you go in and blow a team out and provide your own players with a laundry list of things they could do better, that's the focus of this coaching staff. It is not to blow out a bad team by 70 and then go have a huge party afterwards, because there's another, sooner or later, you're going to play a real team, and it's the guys that just hammer on getting better in the most minute ways every single day. I think Kirby got all that he needed from the game. They got out relatively free of injury. They've got a few, but they know exactly where they are and where they need to be going into SEC play in a few weeks, Troup.
So good, Smooch. And I will say, just touching on that injury front, Dalen Everett didn't play. He could have played. And don't worry about him. He's good to go. He'll be ready to go when Dawgs need him. They did lose their right guard and right tackle after the first two series. And so you got two series in, and your right side of your offensive line's gone. And so that may have stretched the cohesiveness just a bit. But it looks like it was Ernest Green who had just some back tightness. And they just took care of that. And
I will personally I will rub him down with baby oil every night if he needs it. You just let me know, Ernest. I'll be right there, buddy.
It's been an issue with him, so I hope it's not lingering. It seems like it might be something they got to maintain. And then the true freshman, Juan Gaston, did have an ankle injury. It's not going to require surgery. And so that's good, because we were thinking about that tightrope surgery, not going to require that from what I heard. Yeah. His dad was on social media saying big fella's okay. And so he may take a week off and be ready for the Tennessee game. And if not, Georgia's got some options. They've been cross-training those guys too.
Coach. Hayes, Coach. Hayes.
All right, Dog Show. Our normal guest, our regular guest, Coach Hayes is on. And we're so glad to have him here. How are you, Coach?
Doing well, gentlemen. It's good to be here with you as always. I hope y'all doing well on this Labor Day weekend, especially after a Georgia win.
Nothing better.
Is right.
Nothing better than a holiday after a Georgia win, Troup Brinson.
Man, please. I've been doing. It's a Monday, and we're recording this, and so I don't know what everybody else has been doing. I've been doing yard work and making cocktails all day, and actually in between times writing notes on the podcast tonight and what we want to talk about. And Coach, he's been very active, very busy, looking at breaking down some of the game film.
He's a very busy guy, Troup.
He's a very busy fellow, and I've actually watched the game twice already as well. But I think the layman, the casual fan, the fan like we are, we're pretty much casual fans, right, Smooch? And so
we're fans above and beyond. I mean, that's first and foremost what we are, is fans.
Yeah. So the question that we had looking at the game was, I think one of the problems last year was the offensive line, and and when you send three guys to the NFL, you're like, okay, can we get better? Or what are we doing, and who can we count on, and who are these guys? And I think Coach kind of correct me if I'm wrong, Coach. You kind of focused on the right side of the offensive line with Ernest Green and the true freshman, Juan Gaston, right?
Mm-hmm. I did. I know that a lot of people question it. I did as well. I was at the game looking down right over the top of it, just had a bird's eye view, and something that really bothered me was the fact that it seemed that our pass pro was breaking down. And once I got a chance to look at the film, because that's obviously very important to me, is the offensive line of scrimmage as well as the defensive line of scrimmage. And defense didn't give me those vibes. Offense did. But there was pass pro breakdowns, especially when you get into what's called slide right, slide left protections, where you have either a running back or a tight end releasing from their position, and you have somebody to replace that's leaving. So you either got 6-man protection or you got 5-man protection. And in this cases where we're showing play action, Gunner only had the liberty, I think, of about 8 drop back where he had play action in his 29 attempts that he threw the ball.
Okay.
His aggression down the field was a little good. It was pretty decent when, especially against the blitz, believe it or not. He had the hardest time throwing the football when there was no pressure coming at him, when he was having to throw balls into the windows of zones. But when you look up front, things of that nature, really the inside 8, when you look at the last 4 minutes and the beginning 4 minutes, I saw that a lot that happened where when he was blitzed under pressure, he tended to get the ball out pretty quickly. typically when he was not forced to throw it out of bounds or throw it over the head of like Talon Taylor like he did on the one play we're about to see. But, he's going to have to get better with his throwing ability in the zone pockets. But up front, the thing that I want to help people understand, Juan Gaston definitely has a very high ceiling, high potential. We all know that. So we're either going to have to do one of two things: be patient with his growth, because it's not just about him individually. When you work with a unit of 5, you are typically either tag teaming with your tackle. If the mic calls away from you, like if they made a Louis, what I call Roger and Louis, if the mic identifies to the Louis side, to the left side, then that means typically the backside guard and the backside tackle have their own kind of combo that they have to work. It's typically 2 guys. Just for example, you might remember the Tennessee game where Tate Ratledge and Amarius Mims like body slammed that one guy on the X stunt that they had that one time. That's the combos they have to deal with on the backside. They're either one-on-one with their head-up guy or they're taking on some type of crisscross. The play side with the running back has the other 3 to 4 that comes. All right. What we're noticing here in this one, actual example, is called slide right protection, where you've got somebody coming across the formation. It's Lucky as a tight end, so he takes care of the left side and seals, and then every lineman has a gap to step right. But it's hard to do that because when you draw it up on the dry erase board, it seems very simple. I should have a guy show up in my gap when I step right. Well, what if they don't step right? What if they crisscross and do some type of X stunt? You can't panic. It's like you've got to be able to trust the guy shoulder to shoulder with you. Okay. And in this case scenario, Juan Gaston panics because he lets a guy inside a gap to him, which he feels like that's not right, even though it really should have been Bobo who should have been picking him up. But Micah Morris didn't do a very good job with it either. So really your guard, center, guard combo right here is what the breakdown comes from. And it's a small tweak. It's watching film with Coach Searles, getting your ass chewed out, realizing you screwed up, and fixing it. There's not this long-term disadvantage you're going to have from this, but you're going to have those kind of growing pains as we get more reps under us and we build that longevity of seeing a kid grow up in front of us, which if we want him to be out there to blow up those little kids that he does, it seems like he's hitting when he pulls on certain plays that we got to see. Everybody was excited about that, but yet, we're going to see some breakdowns in pass pro sometimes, and those have got to get fixed sooner rather than later. So that's what you're going to be watching here.
Just to interrupt you real quick, so when this play we're watching is this a matter of patience? Or is this just not understanding what his assignment is here?
No, it's a matter of patience, not panicking. It's a matter of patience and not panicking. When he decides he gets a guy that crosses his gap inside, and you'll see in the film as he does it, that when he allows the guy to go inside, he's got to trust that his center is going to pick that A gap up.
Yes.
Because it's a slide right protection. And as much as it's so hard for you to not want to chase somebody that crosses your face, especially since he's lined up on his outside shelf as a 3 technique, it's hard to let a guy cross your face into A gap. So he's got to learn that, hey, that's my responsibility to let my center take that. The center ends up getting screwed because he ends up getting both Micah and Juan Gaston's guy. He ends up double teaming both of them. So Bobo's really the one that gets thrown under the bus. But those 3 guys need to just communicate better with their pickup. And unfortunately, Ernest Green gets to be the one that's chasing the guy at the end. It looks like it's his fault. But it's really not. It's Juan Gaston's guy that got free, and Ernest ends up being the scapegoat here for this situation. Right. But I think they got Talon Taylor to throw the ball here to isolate him. There's something special about him if they're wanting to do something like that.
Agreed.
If he'd had time to throw, I think we have an explosive play here. But slide protection right from Juan Gaston bust. I know a lot of people are excited about Juan Gaston. I am too. I think he's got a high ceiling. I think he's definitely got a great potential for us on the offensive line, but with that comes growing pains. When you've got slide right protection here in this situation, they brought Talon Taylor in the ball game to be a home run threat right here on this situation. And if the play can develop, I think it's something where Talon runs underneath this football, but he doesn't have time to get the play developed because we have a screw up by our guard center guard combo. And I really hate it to even put it on the center because to me, honestly, Bobo gets screwed in this situation too because Micah Morris doesn't do, I think, a good enough job of passing it up and realizing he has inside gap responsibility to slide right. So you should be working slide right protection right here off this play action. Nate's going to come downhill like he's getting it. He's going to be out in the route progression as a safety outlet. So everybody should be stepping to their right for that protection. Delp obviously out here, you can't hardly see him. Lucky's going to come off of this like split action and take care of the backside. What happens, though, these two run a little stunt right here, and I think Monroe Freeland does a good job of passing him up and giving him a good shove into this gap, but Micah should be really settling right here because as this guy crosses his face, this guy's crossing face right here. This guy should be Micah's guy, and Bobo should end up taking the guy that comes across Juan Gaston's face. The problem with Juan Gaston is he sees the crossover, and he panics to try to go back and block that, and what he ends up doing is he lets this guy that ends up crossing his face, Ernest Green, gets held, in a situation where he's sitting here, and because the way he crosses his face and allows that late inside gap, he's the one who's chasing, and it looks like it's his fault when it's really not. It's Juan Gaston and Micah Morris kind of making your center have to take on two, because what ends up happening, you see the cross face here, and he's stepping out, and now Juan Gaston tries to go back down inside to help, and guess what happens? That leaves Ernest Green's guy that's inside gap. His gap is outside gap. He goes to chase this guy. Bobo should be on this guy. Micah should be basically taking on the brunt right here of this guy on his outside shelf, this guy on his inside shelf. Monroe's passed him off to get to this guy. Lucky's got his backside. It looks like Delp's working on a chase right here, but you end up screwing Ernest Green on this because he looks like he's the one in trouble because he's letting his guy go when Juan Gaston actually is the one who caused the problem here and causes Gunner to throw a lot earlier than he wants to an incomplete pass.
So Coach, it's my, and tell me if I'm off here, but it is my assumption that in this type of play call that Kirby, I won't say he likes to see breakdown in his pass pro, but the reason they called the game plan they called in this game was to provide example of where their team still has a ton of work to do, because you can go out and blow this team out by 70, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, so am I off in there, and did Kirby get what he wanted in terms of exposing where his team still is weak?
Well, I think you kind of have a double-edged sword there. I think, first off, they're going to try to do something positive for what Gunner Stockton is very capable of doing, and that's throwing out a play action. So they want to see that kind of action because they think that they can have a positive play from that, especially an explosive. But when you have the breakdown that you do, that's where Phil Rosher, that's where John Lilly, that's where Stacy Searles having more eyes on when you've got five guys trying to simultaneously do a job, when you have more eyes on it, that's yes. Easier to make sure that the coaching of those kids are getting taken care of if it's missed somewhere, because that happens a lot when you've got one guy trying to watch five. So having those extra eyes helps. So getting that on tape is very important. But, I think from the setup, they wanted to throw more play action for Gunner because that's really, they wanted to establish the run. And what do you do off the run when you want to throw to make an explosive is typically some type of play action. That Gunner had a very high percentage completion last year with it, showed a lot of success with that. And then coming in this year, I think that's what they wanted to do to give him some, confidence in throwing the football, because if we're running the ball well, which they did, not to be able to try an explosive play with Talon like they did here on that play that we just watched, to understand it better, to get, and like I said, get it on tape and be able to coach it up. And, people look at it and think it's an ultimate failure. We're just going to be terrible again this year because of one or two sample size reps that you see out of that. And because he got hurt, it made it even worse because he had no chance to redeem himself in that process too. So, he's going to get on tape. He's going to watch it and review. He's going to understand, and that's the learning process. That's the beauty of coaching, is being able to have that tape pulled up on the wall, and you're sitting there saying, listen, you trust your guy to your left. You trust your guy to your right. You do your job. It is not for you to make that decision. You do your job. And I think that's something that you would hear Coach Smart say in a presser. Stacy Searles would say in a presser. And, I think that's the beauty of what we get out of this situation is we get growth because he understands what he's got to do going forward.
Love it.
All right. Well, that is very illuminating, and that's what Coach Hayes does so well.
It's what he does better than anybody, guys.
Yeah. So, Coach, tell us what you got going on right now. Tell us where we can find you on social media.
Well, right now I'm doing, as the fall season begins and we've got the one game under our belt, you can find me on all social media outlets. I am at Coach Hayes Huddle, spelled HUDL. You can find me on X, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. I have a live show that goes out on Thursday that previews the Saturday's game, and then just got off a show this Monday night previewing what we did this past Saturday, where I have offensive and defensive breakdowns. You can catch a lot of my singles that I have out there on X, which is where I post a lot of my work to, and then the collaboration of all those ideas go into my YouTube show that I do on Monday. But as always, gentlemen, it's a pleasure to join the Dog Show and get a chance to talk some ball with you and get a chance to celebrate the big W, the big dub against Marshall, and looking forward to a great season.
The first place we turn to decipher what happened on Saturdays is with Coach Hayes, and we appreciate him coming on today and telling us what we saw. Some things we're questioning, and we always want to know.
100%. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, the one thing that we can't do as fans, even if we had had a stellar offensive line productive day, stay humble with these two games, because it's liquid gold to get reps when you're looking at basically glorified scrimmages against guys that you should beat the crap out of. But what we can't do is get too high up to think that we're something more than we're not. We've still got to improve and get better each week. And I think that's understood, but we definitely don't need to be smelling of ourselves after two games against group of fives that we should beat 45-7 apiece before we head up to Tennessee and Knoxville.
Yeah, yes. That Tennessee game. Oh, I felt, Coach, as though I could see Kirby Smart thinking about that Tennessee game in the game plan of this game. You could yes. feel it. It was not about like USC. They go out and they run 73 points on somebody, but they're not preparing for those giants in their schedule. And I felt that Kirby, that weighed heavily on the coaching staff's mind, Coach.
Yes, and it's going to be something too. The weight that we're going to see on us is similar to like what we put on a lot of these games we watched over the weekend. What a great weekend, Labor Day weekend for college football. And I sit there and think to myself, we had the luxury to be able to get two very good, almost like scrimmage games under our belt to really develop the depth, develop those weaknesses, and understand, to actually not develop the weaknesses, but to see those weaknesses and develop from those bad cues on tape and get better, so that we can, by the time we get to the Tennessee game, put our best product on the field and execute, because I think that's going to give us a better understanding. We're going to have a better barometer when we get up there after the Tennessee game to see truly what a team we have, what kind of team we have.
Love it. Thanks, Coach.
Yes,
Perfectly said, Coach Hayes. Thanks for coming on to the Dog Show. Brother, good luck. We'll see you soon.
Thank you much, gentlemen. Y'all
Go
have
Dogs.
a good night.
Go Dogs.
Go Dogs.
Coach Hayes, 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 Coach Hayes.
Appreciate that, Coach Hayes. Coach Hayes Huddle. The next segment, Smooch, is called Read and React.
Yeah. I got a special graphic for you right here, buddy.
Bam. And we're going to look at what happened across the country, the results, and just some of these games. But this week, we're going to mostly focus on the quarterbacks, because there was so much question about the quarterbacks around the country, and so much inexperience or new situations and new teams, and what these guys were going to provide, which ultimately will make I think long term is going to play a big role in who wins the national championship. There are so many teams that are relying on these quarterbacks, and these new quarterbacks, not just relying on we only have a couple of quarterbacks, really, Smooch, that have experience within the same system. Yeah. And so that's the thing we're looking at in this next segment.
Troup. It's perfectly said. I can't remember a time where the season of so many teams depended on the not just the passable play of these young quarterbacks, but these quarterbacks have to become elite in a hurry as youngsters or as first-year starters. And we're in that season, and we saw it time and again across the country in all of the top games. It comes down to the guy that takes the snaps, Troup.
The SEC we're concerned about the whole country, but because Georgia is competing for national championships, and so we're not just going to be focused on the Southeastern Conference, of course, but it seems like a lot of these quarterbacks do come from the Southeastern Conference, and we were looking at some quarterbacks like Lagway and Lenore Sellers, which we have very high hopes for. Yeah. And then there's some quarterbacks that we don't know much about. And we look at Mateen from Oklahoma, who had a sensational debut.
He had a day, a little bit.
He did. And then Aguiar, who we ridiculed because his background is not as He's got some sketchy background in terms of turnovers and played in App State, but he had a big game for Tennessee. Mm-hmm. And we also looked at, let's see, I wrote down, of course, Klubnik, Nussmeier. And you can look at both of those schools, and Nussmeier, I think, should be a quarterback who is the front runner. Yeah. In terms of experience, he is, and he's got a good squad around him for LSU. Nussmeier looked pretty dang good Saturday night. He
looked really good.
And then Klubnik for Clemson, who looked like he did against Georgia last year in that opener.
That's a good point. He just kind of looked a little clunky.
We do think Klubnik's a good quarterback, but Nussmeier was the better quarterback in that ball game. There's no doubt about that. Ty Simpson, Julian Sayin. I mean, we could have a whole segment about those two guys. Yeah. And the thing is that Smooch, Ty Simpson, a new quarterback. He's not a young quarterback. He's been in the system for a while for Alabama, and and then Sayin, who was a Alabama quarterback who transferred, right,
out to Ohio State.
Both of those guys were underwhelming this past weekend, both of them. And I don't think one had a win, one had a loss. Sayin did find a way to win that game against Texas,
right?
But his numbers weren't great. Maybe it wasn't because of him; it was because he didn't make the mistakes that would have cost him. And then Ty Simpson, who just wasn't a difference maker for Alabama against Florida State. Go ahead.
I think that the biggest source of concern has to be with Ty Simpson in Alabama. There's a couple of reasons behind it. When you go and if you're Ohio State and you go out and you beat Texas, there's nobody turning on the quarterback when you've beaten Texas, right? You go out, you get the victory against Texas, everybody loves you. I mean, you're fine. But Ty Simpson is going to be hearing it he's already hearing it from the fans. I listened to Alabama pods and radio today. They are
because you are in North Alabama. You are in enemy territory.
I am behind enemy lines. I am in North Alabama, and they are out for blood. The only person on this Alabama team that these guys here are more angry at than Ty Simpson is Kalen DeBoer. And that is a hard thing. When the fan base gets on a struggling quarterback, it never helps, ever. And so Ty Simpson was the guy I thought laid the biggest egg. He's also the guy I feel the most sorry for because they went down to an overmatched Florida State team and they got spanked all over the field without an answer. They looked good early, very early. I was like, okay, Alabama's going to run away with this. And then no. It was surprising. And, Simpson, I think, probably is in the worst spot of all the quarterbacks you just named, Troup.
We also have Maeva from USC who put up big numbers, but we could talk about why that was or against who that was. And
can you tell me the nickname of Missouri State? Does anybody know? Who is that?
It's not the Tigers. I don't know.
No.
Do you know?
No. Nobody knows. 73 points again against them is like scoring 73 at Thanksgiving dinner against the 10-year-olds.
So USC is a team that's craved for success. They so want to be back to the level they think they are. They think they've been for the past. They think they were 15, 20 years ago. They're craved for it. So they jump the gun on every single positive outcome. Everything, would it be recruiting or a coaching hire or a spring game? They jump the gun on everything, right?
Everything.
So Maeva. I mean, do you think that Maeva was a guy that they really wanted? Do you think they could not go for they would not choose to have a more high-profile 5-star quarterback leading that program that they think is at the pinnacle of college football? They would. Yeah. Maeva had a great game.
He did.
It was against Missouri State. I will caution you, USC fans, pop this up. So Tennessee, with Nico last year, was thinking the same thing. Oh, we just blew these teams out. Yeah. The first 3 games, playing teams that don't have a pulse, they were so excited. And it didn't turn out. The offense really shrank after these, teams without a pulse disappeared from their schedule. Same thing with Auburn. Auburn last year.
Yes.
They had an opening game, scored 73 points, and we heard from all the Auburn fans about how Peyton Thorne was going to be the next dude, and Auburn was back.
Vanilla Vic is here. Yeah.
73 points against a nobody team. Don't get too enamored with these early season results. Don't. For anybody, don't. Because these teams aren't prepared to play you. They don't expect to beat you, and they just don't want to be embarrassed. And sometimes if you keep running your starters out there, running players out there that can embarrass them, and you see that happen with the Georgia team that doesn't have anything to gain from an embarrassing opponent early in the season, you might not see that same result. But a lot of these teams, they're so craved, Smooch, for anything positive. They will put 70, 80 points on you if they can, because that's what gets everybody excited early when they haven't had anything else to hang their hat on.
That's so true. It comes down to credibility, street cred, whatever you want to call it. And I think sometimes these teams that are starving, as you keep aptly stating, that are starving for that, they approach it with smoke and mirrors rather than a culture change and building something from the ground up. And they want to go out a la Tennessee, a la Auburn, or just like USC. They want to go out and they want to beat the dog out of an overmatched team, and then use that to say, we're back, we're here, we're elite. And that is just not how it works. Let's not forget, at this moment last year, Tennessee fans were still saying Nico for Heisman. They were saying it actually for the next 2 or 3 weeks.
Almost
right?
to October, they were.
Almost to October, and now they ran him out, and Josh Heupel somehow luckily got rid of this guy, and now they've got a good quarterback, and they're ready. We've seen it play out time and time again. We're not trying to rain on your parade. We're just trying to give you the perspective of history. Settle down. You got to go out and get it done in the SEC or with the elite teams in your league, or you're just going to be, as Jerry Clower would say, sucking eggs at the end of the day.
I will say that USC fans, I do think you're getting better. I do.
They're getting better.
I think it's been a process, and I'm not against processes. That's the thing. Don't tell me you're there when you're not there. I'm all about the process, and USC is in the process of that process. And they'll get there eventually if they keep poured money into it the way they have this past couple of years. Right. This is overreaction week, folks. Overreaction week. It's what we're going to have right now, because every fan for every team is going to overreact to what they've seen this first week. And the first week is Notre Dame last year lost to Northern Illinois.
Yeah.
And we all said done. We watched Alabama lose this past week to Florida State, and we said done.
Done.
They're not done.
No.
We're going to identify some problems with them, and they might be a part of another segment on the show. But Possibly. You're not done. You're not champions this week, and you're not done this week.
That's a great point.
They're going to get better, and there's some players that coaches and staffs are going to identify, and whatever they're doing they're going to identify. They're going to get better. There's always so much improvement between week one and week two and week three. But when the games start to really matter, I know some teams had some tough games to start the year off. And I mean, Texas and Ohio State, man, that's a tough way to start the year.
Yeah.
Georgia's done that in the past. We know it. We know how that works. Georgia's been successful in that.
Yeah.
But that is a tough way to break in some new players, especially players that make a difference. Mm-hmm. And looking at all these quarterbacks who we think were so interesting to follow, that was what made, to me, week one so interesting.
Yeah, high drama at the quarterback.
It was drama. And I thought, and guess some subpar competition. Some Lagway had a great week. Sellers was very impressive. I like watching Sellers.
Absolutely.
Mateen, Oklahoma, put up big numbers. I don't think that was impressive against who he played against. Aguiar played against Syracuse. I think he did well.
He chucked the ball. He's not afraid to throw it deep, is he?
He's not. So you're exactly right. He threw it deep. Klubnik, who we have high hopes for this year. He was
starter,
decent.
Apparently. Yeah.
Yeah, but he had a great competition. Mm-hmm. You look at some of that. Nussmeier. He was the winner in that matchup, right?
I would say he's the winner in all quarterbacks in week 1. Right, I would say that's the best week 1 of any quarterback was Nussmeier.
And it's not even based on if you compare stats to stats.
No,
it's one thing, but if you look at what he did against the competition he did, Nussmeier was the winner.
Exactly. He played the stiffer competition. He was at times the best player on the field. He led his team, and those are the types of things, especially early. There's so many things to work through, especially early. I think Nussmeier is the winner week 1. We pointed out on the show last week, I believe 2 weeks ago, we called Nussmeier a dark horse for Heisman. He did nothing to dispel that in week 1.
Yeah. Then you got, let's put out Ty Simpson out there, and we're going to talk about him more later. Yeah, not a difference maker, and the Alabama fans are definitely echoing that. And then the big matchup, Smooch. Let's look at Sayin and Arch Manning.
Who?
And
who's the second quarterback?
I think his name is last name Manning.
Manning came into this game the most overhyped, and not even fair to him. This is not Arch Manning's fault, by the way, people.
Not his fault at all.
Not his fault at all. He went to a private school where he played well. He ascended. Georgia was all in at one point on trying to get Arch Manning to their school. Texas came in and won. Kirby and the coaching staff took their foot off the gas pedal in the pursuit of him. Is a whole other story. But the fact of the matter is, Arch Manning was the consensus number 1 prospect in the country. But even for that, the expectations that were placed upon him as a Heisman frontrunner, as the next thing, they're unfair. And he showed what that expectation can do when he showed nothing elite in this game. He may be elite. He may end up being a great quarterback. But when it mattered, in week 1 against Ohio State, Arch Manning laid an egg for Texas. And I don't know how you reconcile it. I don't know what it is, but it was the end. Not the end. It was a slap in the face to the hype. It's not the end because they'll go out and they'll kill.
It would be the end if this wasn't overreaction week. It is overreaction week.
Right, and right, exactly. And if he had any other name, he'd already be written off. But we're going to double down on it. We'll see what happens. But man, Troup Brinson, I went into that game thinking, I am so tired of hearing Arch Manning hype. And then by the end of that game, I felt sorry for the kid. I really did.
Because we saw it coming.
We've been talking about it for months, people.
It would have been surprising to me if it came out and looked like, the next great
Joe Burrow,
quarterback.
Yeah,
it would have been surprising to me because I've watched him play. I watched his high school career, which was uninspiring. But he had the last name.
5 interceptions in 3 games, senior year of high school. Yeah.
And I watched him when he, as a backup at Texas, he looked good in certain situations, but they were cherry-picked situations. I think he's got the measurables. He could still – so I missed his Smooch last week that I think that Arch Manning could still be that guy next year. Take all your lumps this year. Learn because he has the skills and the measurables, but you got to be on in this speed of the game in SEC. You have to experience it. You have to go through you don't just get the start at the top. You don't, and he hasn't had to go through that. He hasn't paid his dues.
He
hasn't.
That's it.
Because he's on Texas's roster, he hasn't paid his dues.
That's 100% right, man. I'm a musician by trade, and that is the one thing that you always say about musicians. You have to pay your dues. No one gets to, unless your name's Taylor Swift, no one gets to be famous without earning it. You've got to go out there and you've got to get it done. You've got to pay your dues. There's times where you've just got to get kicked in the mouth. You've got to get beaten down by your profession. Arch hasn't done that yet, and he's getting to do it now. And I think your point is so perfectly said that we're not saying he's not an elite quarterback next year. He just has shown nothing. And I mean nothing that would say he's an elite quarterback this year. Let's not forget, he could not beat out, what was Quinn Ewers, a 7th-round draft pick, a 6th-round draft pick? He couldn't beat out a 6th-round draft pick last year. and he came onto the field. It was shown he couldn't outrun Jalen Walker on the end, one of my favorite sacks of the year. He's just, it's just unfair. I don't want to say he's not good
unfair.
because I think he's good. It's
unfair.
Just unfair, the level of hype. And I think, and I said this on our Twitter during the game, this is an indictment on the sports media. This ain't got nothing to do with art.
They got to have a story, Smooch. They got to go with a story, though.
Oh, my gosh. But, yeah, it is just so unfair to say this guy is the heir apparent when he hasn't even been the guy yet.
It's a lesson, though. It's a lesson for the fans that don't get to sit and practice every day.
Yes.
For any team you follow, okay? Because if he was as good as you had hyped him up to be media this year, guess what? He'd have been doing last year.
That's exactly right. That is
he'd
exactly
have been playing.
Right. Yeah.
He'd been playing.
There would be a quarterback
was
controversy, and Ewers would have been benched, and it would have been a whole thing if he was that good.
And so Sarkisian is in practice every day. He knows what his limitations are. He knows what he needs to improve on. And that's the same thing for all these teams. These coaches, even as fans, we look at our favorite team, and we say, why won't we do this? Why won't we do that? These coaches want to win more than you do. Their livelihood depends on it.
That's right.
Yeah, they see practice every day. They make the decisions based on what they see every day.
Yeah.
And these little snippets you see that they show you during the garbage time, and you get so excited about the backup quarterback. They know what that means.
That's right. You could see, Troup Brinson, you could see in the way Sark called that game for Arch that he had a very good grasp and a grasp on Arch's abilities and where he is right now that was completely different than the rest of the country. Sark knew, and the way he called that game, they kept saying, oh, it's vanilla play calling. They're protecting him. They're not restricting him. They're protecting him because he's just not there yet. That's simple as that, Troup.
And then one quarterback I didn't mention yet, Smooch, is Carson Beck, and they played Miami. Did have a beautiful. It was a fun game to watch against Notre Dame, and we watched Carson Beck. We have lots of history with Carson Beck. We know what he's about. We know a lot of stuff that some of you fans know, some of you fans don't know.
That's right.
And Carson Beck is a very talented quarterback.
Indeed.
His arm ability is so good, and he's a smart dude too. It all depends on where his head's at, I think, because if his head was in the right place last year, we wouldn't be talking about him playing for Miami right now.
That's a good point.
He'd be in the NFL, actually.
He'd be in the NFL.
And so, but his head, for a multitude of reasons, Smooch, was not where it needed to be going into a year where he needed to be his best. He could be his best. And that hurt Georgia. That hurt the narrative of quarterbacks at Georgia. And I think there were some other factors in it because you folks are going to say, well, the offensive line wasn't great, and the wide receivers dropped a lot of balls. I want you to know that I wish I had a number right now. There's a lot of those drop balls that Georgia had last year and drives that went on to still be in scoring drives. Believe it or not. But so Carson Beck was not what he needed to be last year. That's all you need to know.
Yeah.
This year, we got one game to go on, and he looked pretty good. He looked good. He only threw for, I will say, he was like 20 for 30, 200 yards. It's not earth-shattering, but it's a good opening game against a good defense.
It was the two touchdown passes are, I think, what excited everyone and kind of got the hype train going. Drew.
Dude, the dude's got so much arm talent. He's got it. He's got the arm talent. If he can stay locked in for a full season
right
and
there.
coached,
it's all right there.
That and coached the right way. It felt like, listening to the media, that he didn't like. It felt like he was maybe a little looser coaching is what he was desiring. I don't know. Maybe that, but it felt like that the media narrative was that Carson Beck didn't enjoy being coached at Georgia the way he was coached.
There was, they hinted on that almost to the point of like where Georgia and their staff were bullying him was even touched on in the post game after the game. And what did he say? He enjoys football again thanks to Miami or something like that.
He did say that. You know why? Because the standard's the standard, Carson.
Yeah.
The standard is the standard. You get with it, or you go to Miami, or you go to Florida, or you go to Auburn. The standard is the standard. And if you can't meet the standard, you're going to feel it. And it's not going to be fun, Carson.
Yeah.
And so I hope you have fun at Miami. I hope you have I think you have a great year.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I don't think I don't think the coaching staff will push him as hard to be the best of it, the best that he can be. And and if that's okay with him, that's okay. This guy is not a rookie. He's not a freshman or sophomore. He's been playing football for a while now.
He's been at Georgia a long time.
And the standard is the standard, Carson. Nobody's going to make any apologies from the Georgia side. We just despise the media for trying to make you a victim of it.
There you go. A victim. He's a victim of what? Wanting more out of him or higher standards? Exactly like you said. We talked to Coach off air when we were shooting that segment earlier, and Coach made a really poignant prediction. He said, you know what? Because of Miami's coaching staff and because of the weakness of their schedule, Carson could very well lead this team right into the playoff where they're going to meet up, hopefully with a Georgia. Might not be a Georgia, but where they're going to meet up with somebody that, can punch back. And at that point, we're going to see what's really going on there. I really think that my guess for the Miami season is a lot of hype and a lot of excitement, only to have it dashed away because he ain't Cam Ward, guys. That's not happening. And Cam Ward lost to Georgia Tech. So somewhere along the lines, there's going to be a fall. There's going to be a collapse. But we wish Carson the best. You said it the best on I believe it was X. You said it on. We wish Carson no ill will. We're kind of neutral on the Carson thing.
Indifferent.
But if you're going to stand back, as Coach said earlier, and throw rocks over the fence, play well enough to get your team into the playoff, and then we'll figure out whose coaching staff had the magical formula all along. That would be more than happy to figure that out.
Here's the play. Put the play up there. Here's the play everybody's going nuts about, and it's divided on what people think about it. This is Carson throwing this pass and off his back foot and throwing it up for grabs and a spectacular catch there. That was a spectacular catch.
Spectacular catch.
It was. And so my comment when I've talked about the past few hours on X was that was a terrible pass. That was a terrible decision. It was a spectacular catch.
Yes.
And if you think, okay, so this catch may be in the running at the end of the season for catch of the year.
100%.
Maybe.
Yes.
If you can duplicate that on a weekly basis, Carson's going to throw those passes quite often.
Give him the Heisman. If that's routine, you'll have it, yeah.
Carson's going to throw those just as quickly as he makes those cringy TikTok videos. And so if you can make these type catches on a weekly basis, and sign me up, sign everybody up, because that was any coach is going to look at that and say, ooh. No. Don't do that. Don't do that, because they know the percentages. That's not going to work out for you right there. Yeah, right. I even mentioned the Smooch earlier. It reminded me of the Ohio State game against Georgia, where C.J. Stroud was drifting backwards and just threw one up for grabs. And if Javon Bullard was on that Notre Dame, was in the defensive backfield, ooh, it's a whole different thing happening right now.
Might be the end of the year for the receiver. That might be the last catch he made this year.
Yeah, only thing good about Stroud making that pass was towards the back of the end zone, which gave him another neutral result.
He wasn't going to throw an interception. Carson Beck.
I think he was throwing it away anyway. I think
he probably was.
Carson Beck was it.
Carson threw the ball into the middle of defenders, and it just doesn't work. You can't call it magic when it happens to work out. It's going to work out 1 out of 10 times. He got one out of 10 on that throw. And, it was beautiful. It's a beautiful catch. There's nothing about the quarterback play that was elite of that. It was the play the receiver made.
Decision.
The kid's a star.
It's a bad decision. He made one play. I think the quarterbacks that Smooch that I was most excited about, other than Carson Beck, I really liked what Lenore Sellers brings to the table. And he did most of his work early. but that dude's legit.
He's legit.
And is his team around him gonna give him what he needs? I don't know if they will, because that game was still way closer than it needed to be.
Yeah.
And so, yeah.
I was going to say that we said that Nussmeier had the best week of anyone. I think that Sellers is the most. He is the scariest of the quarterbacks that are there. He because he can just beat you. You could run him out there, I'm pretty sure, with a fraternity, and he'd have a chance at beating you. He just has that skill set. But like you said, can South Carolina put the team around him?
I'm telling you, if they do, then that's a team that's going to be a playoff team. Even ahead of Florida. I don't know. Lagway had a great game. I just don't.
He really did.
I'm more of a Sellers guy than I'm a Lagway guy right now. And
well,
Sellers has played
a season, right? Lagway never has.
Exactly right. Give me something else to go on, and I'll believe in you. I know the talent's there, but yeah, I got to see that.
The elite quarterback in college football. We saw him Sunday. We just don't know who he is what I'm saying.
All right, Smooch. Bam. Hit that DFA. Let's go.
So delusion is a fixed false belief that doesn't change in light of conflicting evidence.
They don't know reality from their dream worlds, and they won't go outside and play.
A fixed false belief that is not grounded in reality.
The Delusional Fan Alert, and this is the most popular segment in all of sports.
100%.
Smooch agrees. And we talked a little bit about, let's see, Arch Manning. So I don't want to put Texas into delusional, even though they're very delusional in what their expectations were with Arch Manning.
Yeah.
This DFA is kind of like what we do as sports fans. We cash receipts in, Smooch.
Indeed, we
and
do.
The receipts are for what we told a year and a half ago Alabama fans about what losing Saban would mean.
Yes.
Don't tell me that you're the brand and Alabama's the brand no matter what. Don't tell me that, because we follow college football. We've seen multiple high-profile programs. When they lose a coach or a coach goes somewhere else, things change.
That's right.
I don't think they're arguing with us right now. So this Delusional Fan Alert is for you, Alabama, and for you, Kalen DeBoer, and your coaching staff, because even your fans don't believe where you're going right now.
Alabama!
No, they don't. This is I told you it was quiet. Remember that a couple of weeks ago? I told you it was quiet around here in reference to the Alabama fans, and they were withholding judgment, so to speak. They're not anymore, Troup Brinson.
No, they're done.
They were. This is the lowest I've ever seen them. I've been in North Alabama for 12 and a half years now. I came here in 2013.
Yep, 13.
And I've never seen them where I saw them on Sunday and Monday of this week, Troup. They're not in. Now, does that mean the fans have anything to do with the team? Not directly, but indirectly. That's got to be huge pressure, because these guys have been – a 9-3 season was a failure for Alabama for 20 years, Troup. And now
you can't win no more.
We're 0-1 against the team they were favored to beat, and they're looking at a long season, and they're having trouble extracting hope from what they saw on the field Sunday, Troup.
And I'll send you this, and take a look at this, folks. This is what Alabama has looked like in their past few losses, and what the odds have been. They've been favored by almost 2 touchdowns most of the time. Alabama is 5-5 in their past 10 games.
That doesn't even sound right.
5-5. And we questioned DeBoer when he came in. We saw kind of the demeanor he had. Mm-hmm. We saw the coaching staff he hired, and we were like, that's not the creme de la creme. Those guys are going to either exceed expectations, or they're going to fall flat on their face.
And they fell.
And we looked at DeBoer and said most of his accolades came not even Division I. and he was coaching teams that weren't even. He didn't even recruit those players. He didn't develop that whole program. He was
never put together a roster at the highest level. That's exactly right. Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, we saw that, and we were like, if it succeeds, we will be surprised.
Yes,
but because it shouldn't. It shouldn't. If it succeeds, it's going to be on the coattails of Nick Saban.
Mm-hmm.
And then what after that? I mean, maybe you can ride that and as a good coach. I mean, I think DeBoer's a good coach. I just don't – I think he is the polar opposite of what Nick Saban was. We're reading that, and I'm showing it to you right now, is that the discipline – and the expectation and the standard that Nick Saban had is totally different than what DeBoer has. He's more of a lax, friendly coach. And that works sometimes when you got a lot of hungry players trying to make their name for themselves. Yeah. When you're coaching the best, and we looked at this blue chip ratio, when you're coaching the best of the best, these guys already think they know who they are. Mm-hmm. And if you can't corral that, if you can't channel that, and obviously he's having trouble doing it.
Yeah. Leading elite level athletes is a skill that Nick Saban had, and he had it better than anybody, better than Kirby, people. Nick Saban had that ability. And Troup, the number one shared thing that I've seen from the Alabama hate, where they're sharing videos and content, has been they're going back to DeBoer allowing a TikTok video to be shot in his own locker room of guys just clowning around, not being serious, and shooting a TikTok. And everybody said, oh, what's the big deal with that? Well, what it is it symbolizes the very culture shift that you're alluding to in your statement there, Troup. In that
culture shift is right.
Yeah.
Alabama doesn't have a schematical issue, but rather their loss proved they have a culture issue.
Yeah, you're seeing that the culture that Nick Saban built, which people thought was maniacal and OCD and just absolutely upset. Yeah, it was all of those things. But you know what?
But they also mischaracterized it as the brand.
The brand, right. The brand Alabama. That Alabama A with that little weird flag on top of it, that somehow that elevated you above things. And with the shooting of TikTok videos to what? Roll Tide Willie being on the field at a practice.
Black Bama Black! Black Bama Black!
Those types of things, I'm not saying those things kill you. I'm saying what they are the signs of a culture shift. And did it affect them badly the first year? It affected them modestly the first year. But right off the bat, it affected them this year. And that's what these fans who are used to the highest level of excellence are not tolerating, Troup Brinson.
They are not. And they're done. They're already done.
They're already done.
And we've seen it. I've been on Bama's pages, and they're done with this coaching staff as, And I even saw and it wasn't just the execution of some of the plays. It was just the talent on the field. It was some of the want to. And they showed players just loafing.
Jogging. Yes, jogging. There's a video up right now I'll put up. Yeah.
Yeah, and people are looking at that and saying, this is not normal for Bama. And if you don't deal with this, and the point now is if you deal with this now, you've allowed it to happen.
Right.
You're just kind of chasing your tail because you allowed this to happen over the past year and a half. And so I think this is still overreaction week, but I think for Alabama fans and administration who hold this program above everybody else, and maybe they should.
Yes, they're the best.
They should. Your expectations should be way, way different than what you're seeing right now. Get rid of the staff. Do it. Flush them. You should. You really should. If you have that expectation and standard, flush this as quickly as possible and start again and make better decisions, because this is not it. It won't be it. Yeah. Not from the coaching, not from the head coach to the defensive coach to the offensive coordinator. This is not it. And you're not holding these players accountable, and it's only going to get worse, and it's going to be rougher to rip that Band-Aid off the longer you wait.
Yeah, that's what it's looking like. And once the once the boosters, once the alumni start to turn, all of a sudden, what is his buyout? Kalen, $70 million? That starts to look like something that's doable.
Yeah.
When you're talking about a standard that Saban set that is unimaginable. That, like I said, 2 losses is cause for concern. Saban called it a rebuilding year, when they only won 11 games, a rebuilding year. They would do anything sitting where they are right now for an 11-win season. That's where they are. That looks so good to them, and it's foreign. Is it? We've been using the word unfair a lot tonight. Is it a bit unfair to DeBoer? Sure. But you took the job.
You took the job. You shouldn't have. Alabama's a different job.
Alabama's a different job. Go to Indiana. Go to Florida if you don't want these crazy expectations. But that is the expectation. They came in. They were given every single possible benefit of the doubt. Every one. And every time we point out something that didn't seem right, it didn't seem within the Nick Saban, Kirby Smart, it didn't seem right within that zeitgeist, we would point it out, we would be met with this vitriol. And now they're saying, hey, these guys may have been right all along because here we are, a loss to Florida State, an unranked team in week 1 in which after the first quarter, they were never really in that game, Troup.
And we told you guys, Smooch told you, you don't get better by losing Nick Saban, and your expectations not going to match up. No. And, we were telling you that then, and we're telling you now because we care. We care.
We really do care for you guys.
We want you to be better.
Yes.
We don't want you to get bogged down in the Kalen DeBoer debacle because that's what it is. Just move on. We care about you guys. And Georgia is not Georgia without Alabama being what they should be. Mm-hmm. And so, just flush it, move on, and you'll find somebody else. And hopefully, it's not a given.
Right.
You're not going to hire Kirby Smart. That would be the home run.
Well, they gave it a shot. It just wasn't happening. I was asked that question. Am I afraid that Kirby Smart is going to take the job when Nick Saban retired? I'm like, Kirby Smart has what he wants right now. Why would he go somewhere that was already starting to erode? There were signs of erosion in Bama before Saban left.
We said that for over a year that this train is headed the wrong direction. If you don't see that, if you hang everything on a couple of outlier games, mm-hmm. and one of those was the SEC championship against Georgia before we beat you in the national championship. If that didn't happen, you'd have been out. You'd have been making that decision quicker or sooner. You'd have been thinking quicker. Right. Mm-hmm. So we saw that coming for like 2 years, and Saban obviously saw it too. So I would throw an obscene amount of money at Dan Lanning, make him say no again. Do it. That's the guy. Make Dan Lanning say no again. And that's just what the Dawgs Show's saying, because we know what your standard is and what you guys expect. But if you don't, it's going to be some retreads before you find that guy, and that's going to be an ugly scene for about the next 15 years. And we don't.
Do you think, Troup Brinson? Just ask you, throw this right out there. Do you think that DeBoer is the coach for Alabama next season?
I know he's not. I know it's not even about the X's and O's. It's nothing about that. He does not understand SEC football. He does not understand Alabama at all, and he has shown that. It's not a question.
Yeah, he doesn't understand that. He thought the culture was Roll Tide Willie. He thought the culture was getting in there with these elite upon elite, and they're still bringing in elite players.
They are.
I mean,
that'll stop though. That'll dry up.
That's going to dry up once we stop to see results, and and the recruiting is going to slow down. The only thing that Kalen DeBoer was able to ride on Nick Saban was the brand of Alabama, and that led to those recruits. But I don't see it either, Troup. If Bama goes on, let's say they lose 3 to 4 regular season games this year, and they could lose fewer, they could lose more. But I think that $70 million buyout starts to look pretty good. Yeah, I mean, that's where we are here. I mean, I can show you X posts of it right now where the fan base is ready to move on now. And like you said, it is overreaction week. But did you ever think we would see this kind of overreaction from an Alabama fan base?
No, I don't. The funny thing is, I don't think it's that big of an overreaction. They're just coming to grips with the truth. So, and Alabama doesn't have those deep pockets as you think they would based on their trophy case. They don't.
Yeah.
I don't think everybody across college football realizes that they don't have those deep coffers. They don't.
No.
And so they got to make better decisions. They have money. And they have a committed administration, but they don't have the deep pockets some of these other schools do.
They're not Texas. Or even Texas A&M, for that matter.
No, Texas Tech right now.
Or Texas Tech.
All right.
Oh, my gosh.
Well, that was the overreaction, and maybe we overreacted. Maybe we reacted perfectly on time.
I think we're spot on, buddy.
The results will show. All right. We do want to thank you so much for tuning in this week. And we got Austin Peay this next weekend at home again before the season really gets started. But we're so glad college football's back, Smooch. It feels good to talk about something that's not just hypothetical. We're talking about real stuff right now.
Oh, it feels so good. It feels so good. I have watched so many games, and, yeah, it's been beautiful.
All right. We want to thank you again for Coach Hayes for coming on and showing us a couple of things about the offensive line and the offense. Mm-hmm. But we appreciate you, brother, for Coach Hayes and for Smooch Moncrief. This is Troup Brinson saying so long. We'll see you soon.
This is the Dog Show with Troup and Smooch.
It's the Dog Show. It's the Dog Show. It's the Dog